Have you ever felt like you lost sight of something, kind of like you got your eyes off the prize? You started looking at things in a perspective that was really small. Within the last year, I feel as if my perspective has gotten somewhat skewed or somehow distracted by the things that really are very little, petty, and, well, in the grand scheme of things, don't really matter at all. It's kind of, if God is really as big as I tell people that He is, then why have I had such a hard time believing it? Why have I looked at Him through a magnifying glass as if He's a tiny ant or something little? You know, I really feel as if it's time to start dreaming big with God again. That's it. It's time to start dreaming big. I remember being a kid and walking down these tracks and beginning to think about life, and when I got to eventually get on my own when I was in my early teens, and walking around this city and walking around my little community and thinking, man, God, this place is so big, it's so overwhelming, and if this is so big to me, how big is the world? And I just remember thinking so big with God, and then somewhere along the way, I stopped thinking about God in such a big way. And somehow, my molehills began to turn to mountains. And when I looked up one day, there was a mountain in my face. And I just began to pray to God, how can this be so big? What is this that is so big in my way? What is the enemy putting in the way that is what seemingly impossible to get around? And I just prayed, God, would you give me your perspective? Would you give me your eyes? And the lens of God began to zoom out, and I began to see, wow, what is this I'm looking at? And what it was the tip of a push pin. It was really tiny, but I'd let the drama of my life begin to build up and my perspective get skewed, and what I realized is it really wasn't a mountain at all, and I began to see how big God was and the mountains in the background of my life, and that He was calling me up to a perspective that was supposed to be higher and more mighty, and that He's not only calling me but other people up to begin to dream big with Him. That in our communities and at the malls and other places that are around, and in our city of Hickson or Saudi or Red Bank or wherever it may be, that we can begin to dream big and look at God through a bigger lens than what we are. That really we're looking at Him through a tiny magnifying glass, as if God is something small like an ant or an insect, and that God is really so big that we have lost perspective of who He truly is and what God truly does. That we think that, oh, God is big, and we say it, but I don't know if we really believe it. It's something that we say because it's easy to say, but it's not something that is easy to do. It's not easy to walk on our campus and begin to share our faith, and it's not easy for me to begin to walk with the Lord and the people that are tough or hard to walk up to them and say, you know, God is good and He can deliver you out of this present evil or this present struggle or pain, and He can help you. And it's not always easy to say this, and because what has happened is our perspective of God is actually the perspective of looking at a pushpin. And so I begin to say, God, what is dreaming big with you? How can I dream big with you that you would make my perspective of you so huge that I'd be able to show people the grandeur of your love? And so if God is big and we can dream big with Him, my question is this: what's the next step for us in following Jesus? The question is, so what now? What can we do now with God?